and welcome. You're watching Ask PQ on Bloomberg Quint. I am Agam Vakil.
Hi everyone, and I'm Navneet Saluja D'Souza. Well, this is the show where we address all your stock queries, so you can write to us on Twitter, Facebook, or just call us on 022-4540-4141. You can also mail us at askbq@bloombergquint.com with all your financial queries, and we'll try and address as many as possible on the show. Just remember to add the AskBQ hashtag. Well, let's get in our two experts of the day then. Sandeep Jain of Tradeswift Broking and Sameet Chavan of Angel Broking are here to answer all your queries. Welcome to the show, gentlemen, and good afternoon to both of you. Well, before we get into the individual stock queries, here's a look as to what's happening with the markets right now. We are a bit under pressure, and that's because there's been a sharp sell-off that has come in for the Nifty PSU banking space in today's trading session. The Nifty PSU banking the index is trading with cuts of 3%, and the cuts have come on back of RBI's new framework of dealing with the bad loans. So Nifty PSU bank is now trading with cuts of nearly 2.7%. Let's just pull up the volatility index. That too has seen cool off after tumbling 7% on Monday. Another 6.5% lower for India VIX. 16.7 is the mark. But talking about the broader markets, they definitely seem to be outperforming the benchmark indices in the last 2 to 3 sessions. So today also mid-cap and small-cap index are firmly trading in the green. In terms of top sectoral gainer, you've got the Nifty Realty Index. That's seen strong gains in today's session. And the top sectoral loser we've already highlighted, that's the Nifty PSU banking space. If you could just pull up the contributors chart of Nifty constituents in check, which are the stocks that are actually dragging the index lower, and clearly it will be all the financials. So ICICI Bank, Axis, SBI, Yes Bank, all of them are trading in the red. Some support coming from the biggies, Reliance Industries, HDFC Twins, as well as Bharti Airtel. Just want to highlight few pockets. The rise stocks have seen a good surge in today's session. Kohinoor is trading with gains of nearly 10 to 11%. Remember, the earnings will come out today. The entire pack is actually doing well, 12% higher there. LT Foods and KRBL is in focus after Pabrais Fund bought almost 2.7% stake in the company. So that's the rise pack which is gaining in today's session. The other pack is housing finance companies. That too has seen strong gains today. So you've got the likes of Dewan Housing, Canfin Homes and India Bulls Housing. All of them have seen strong gains. Sun Pharma comes out with its earnings today. Keep an eye on that counter. It's a Nifty constituent, so ahead of the numbers, 1.7% lower. Remember, the Taro's earnings were weak this time around, Agam.
Well, of course, the markets in general are not looking too bad, considering, as Navneet's already, addressed the market breadth. But let's address earnings. We have Man Infra Construction, who posted a strong set of earnings for the December quarter, and their operating profit rose by 125% to come in at around 48.8 crores. Parag Shah, Managing Director of the company, joins us on the phone line to take us through the performance of the quarter. Hi, Parag. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Let's start off with the highlights of the quarter and what you attribute to the strength for your bottom line coming in.
So we are working on a port project at Nhava Sheva, Mumbai, and this quarter the major turnover has come from the port sector. We are into real estate also, and the projects have just started, but we are yet not started booking the turnover of that.
Mr. Shah, could you tell us how does your order book currently look like, and what's the contribution from the port segment?
We have an order book somewhere around 560 crore rupees right now. Out of that, around 300 crore rupees is from a port sector. We have our own projects which is in a pipeline, which we are expecting to start in maybe next quarter. Should be somewhere around 800 to 900 crore rupees order book. In-house order book would be coming for EPC.
Okay.
And we had quoted 2-3 government projects also, where we are at L1 status, and we are expecting the results in maybe a couple of weeks.
And Parag, can you also, take us through this particular order book? How does this distribute across verticals? You've said about 800, 900 crores currently. In what different segments are these orders coming from?
So there's in-house orders which are coming from, that's a residential sector. It's a low-cost housing and the mid-cost housing in and around Mumbai.
So have you started work on any of the low-cost housing project? If yes, Mr. Shah, just want to get a check. What sort of margins are you getting from those projects?
We are just starting the project. We have not started the project.
Okay.
It's on a final approval, and we expect to start in next quarter.
And any number that you're working with, what's the street estimate like with regard to the margins that one can look at from the low-cost housing projects?
We are doing one project at Daisar, which is somewhere around 3.8 million square feet, which we are expecting to start somewhere by April or May. And the two projects we are doing at Ghatkopar, Mumbai, that's Samada redevelopment projects. And our ongoing projects, Atmosphere project at Mulund is on, which is around 2.3 million square feet.
Okay, Mr. Shah, we'll leave it at that. Thanks for joining us and taking us through your earnings. Of course, Man Infra Construction for now, trading largely flattish, but it has posted a decent set of earnings, at least as far as the bottom line is concerned, a strong 125% growth. Well, we'll go across and start taking queries from this show. So the first up comes from A.K. Gupta, who writes us on email, and he has shares of SJVN bought at 24.7 in its IPO. Now the company is, offering a buyback of shares at around 38.75, and he wants to know if he should tender his shares for the buyback. Sandeep, I'm going to come to you on this one. What can Mr. Gupta do with his shares, considering, your buyback offer at around little over 38 rupees per share? It's currently trading at 36.9. Would you recommend Mr. Gupta to go ahead and tender it for buyback?
No, he can hold on to the shares. I think he has been an IPO investor, so his motive is long-term only. And since the stock's valuations and fundamentals are very good, very attractive, so I feel he can always hold on to the stock, because 37 it's already ruling at, and 38.75 is the buyback price. I don't think there is a great difference between the two prices, and not a very great arbitrage also. And then you have the good dividend yield also. So I think he can hold on to the stock, and it's a great fundamentally good stock, and the prospects are also good. And NHPC and SJVN, there are some talks of some merger also in the future. So let's see what happens.
Okay, that's the view on SJVN. You can look to hold on to your counter. Remember, the buyback is happening around the price of 38 or so. Let's move on and take our next query for the day. Ashwin Mehta writes to us on Twitter. He wants to invest in IDBI Bank with a 6-month view. Ashwin wants to know if these are the right levels for him to enter into this stock. Well, let me take this query to Sameet. Sameet, IDBI Bank, I think it was doing well until last week or something, but today the entire banking space has come under pressure. If somebody wants to take a fresh call here, would you advise them to buy at current levels?
See, this has been a laggard since last couple of years. It has done nothing. It has been consolidating in a range, and of late, yes, as you rightly pointed out, the stock has managed to give a decent recovery from low levels of 56, 57 in a span of 4 days. However, if we look at it from a slightly short-term perspective, then 69 to 70 seems to be a major hurdle. So since he is a short-term trader, I would rather wait for a breakout to happen. If this particular stock gives a decent breakout beyond 70 rupees, then that triggers a near-term momentum. So he can go long only beyond 70. In that case, he can expect a decent target of somewhere around 80, 82.
All right. So, well, that's the view on that particular counter, but we'll move across and take Ravindra Gupta's query as well. And he writes to us on Facebook, and he has 400 shares of Bank of Maharashtra bought at around 22.4 rupees per share with a long-term view. And Ravindra wants to know if he should hold or sell. Bank of Maharashtra is currently trading in the cash markets at around 19 rupees. There you have it. And it is not as liquid. So we do not have too much, in terms of the churn as far as Bank of Maharashtra is concerned. Again, when it comes to its market capitalization, not the largest of banks either. Sameet, considering the low volumes, what would your take be when it comes to Bank of Maharashtra right now?
See, generally we don't track this counter. We don't recommend this underperforming stock as well. As you rightly pointed out, yes, the volumes are on the lower side. And if we look at it from a slightly broader perspective also, I don't see any encouraging sign on charts. So unless we don't see higher volumes and good price action, we don't recommend this particular counter.
Okay, so avoid Bank of Maharashtra is the call coming in from Sameet. Let's take our next query, which is coming on YouTube for the day. Viraj Pujare writes to us. He wants to invest in Sun Pharma with a 3-month view. Viraj wants to know if this is the right time for him to put his money here. Sameet, I'll come back to you. Sun Pharma definitely will be in focus today on back of its earnings, but largely the expectation is that the earnings will not be good. The Taro numbers were bad, and we're expecting margin contraction this time around once again to about 21 or 22%. If somebody wants to take a fresh call, keeping in mind it's a 3-month position, what would you advise?
See, as a disclosure, we have been quite upbeat on this stock. Since the early part of September, it was trading somewhere around 475, 480, and since then we have used all dips to buy this particular counter. Yes, if we look at it from a slightly broader perspective, the chart structure are quite encouraging, and we remain upbeat on this counter. Since he's a short-term trader and there's a strong resistance around 600, I would rather wait for him to for this particular counter to surpass 600 on a sustainable basis. On Monday, yes, the stock managed to give a breakout on intraday basis, but at the end the stock failed to sustain above 600. So I would rather wait for a breakout to happen for a short-term traders. But if he is a medium to long-term trader, any dip in this particular counter would be a good buying opportunity. So as a short-term trader, he should look for a breakout beyond 600. If that happens, then you can expect a decent appreciation at least towards 650, 655.
All right, so well, that's coming in on Sun Pharma. Of course, you must remember that we're also expecting its earnings today, which could likely move the needle quite substantially from Sun Pharma. So you must keep that into consideration. But we'll move across and take more queries on social media, some live ones too. So we have Jai Kishan who writes to us on Facebook, and he has bought 100 shares of PNC Infratech at 150 and 150 shares of Ashoka Buildcon at 195 with a 2-year view. So this is clearly an infra play that Jai Kishan is looking at right now. PNC Infratech at 150 and Ashoka Buildcon at 195, and he wants to know if he should buy or rather if he should hold or sell. So Sandeep, I'll take this query on you. Let's start off with the PNC Infratech, and what is your view here? And you can follow that up with Ashoka Buildcon as well.
See, I'm more comfortable with Ashoka Buildcon, because somehow infra is a good play, but still they are not able to clean up their balance sheet or make their balance sheet healthy, and valuations are also not very cheap in this segment. And the government though has a great focus and great push also towards this segment, but still Ashoka Buildcon looks to be more attractive to me. And somehow there is one more stock called ILFS Engineering. The results were good, the pedigree is good, so I think one can look onto that also. And regarding PNC Infratech, somehow I don't track this stock very keenly, so I won't be able to comment on that.
Sameet, your view on the charts for PNC Infratech?
See, the volumes, the average volumes are on the lower side. So this is the one stock that we generally don't track. But if we look at the weekly and monthly chart structure, it certainly looks good. It has been maintaining its higher bottom formation. However, of late, the stock has come off a bit from its recent highs. So there's a strong support around 160, wherein 200-day moving average is placed. So that becomes a make or break level. So those who have bought it at lower levels, they should keep a strict stop loss below 160 on a closing basis.
Okay, that's the view on PNC Infra. Let's take some more queries. Darshan Gohil says he's bought 80 shares of Mithun Alloys at a price of 815 with a short-term view. Remember, the stock has almost doubled in last 1 year. Let's check what the current market price is. Darshan's bought at 815, so it's at about 896. Sameet, I'll come back to you. Since it's a short-term view, do you think he should be booking his profits, or he can expect higher levels?
See, as of now, he can expect higher levels, but he has to keep a strict stop loss now somewhere around 875. So 875 to 870 seems to be a very strong support, at least in the near term. So as long as this stock manages to hold this important support level, there's a possibility of good upside move, at least in the near term. So he can hold on to it, keep a stop loss below 875.
All right, keep a stop loss of 875. That's the view on Mithun Alloys. And we'll take the next query, which comes from Manoj Jain, and he's bought around 41 shares of BLS International at around 271 with a 5-year view. Now, BLS International currently is trading at around 203. So Manoj Jain is looking at quite a substantial loss from these current levels. Do remember BLS International had a very good 2017, but as it appears, not such a great year to start with. So Sandeep, what is your fundamental call on something like a BLS International Services, and what would you advise Manoj to do?
He should certainly hold on to it. Somehow I feel that the company's business model is excellent, and somehow it is into the visa services and a very unique business model and a sort of monopolistic business model also, and going for lots of countries and most of the European countries also. And one more thing, when you these companies are below 250 crore turnover. So in this budget, the government has reduced the tax slabs for these kind of companies. So this company is also a great beneficiary of this particular tax cut. So I feel one should certainly hold on to it. Rather, he can average at these levels because it has corrected a lot from 279, 80, 290 levels to 200. Below 200 it was, and it is somewhere looking to be bottoming out. So I feel he can average it out also.
Okay, so you can look to hold on to your position in BLS International. If somebody wants to average, can look to average as well at current levels. Let's move on and take some more live queries that we are getting. And this one comes from Hari Om Panchal. He's bought 210 shares of Kolte Patil at a price of 345 with a short-term view. And well, the shares of Kolte Patil have been pretty active, not only today. In fact, I remember on Monday too, it gained nearly 6%. And Kolte Patil today is sitting with gains of about 7.6%. So Hari Om is bought around 345. And 372 is the current mark. Sameet, should he be booking profits or he can wait?
He can certainly wait. The monthly chart looks quite encouraging, and ever since the stock managed to give a decisive breakout from its previous hurdles of 220, we've already seen a decent appreciation in this particular counter. In last 3-4 days, yes, the stock has managed to give a recovery from lower levels of 300. So in last 3-4 days, yes, the volume activity has also picked up, and price action certainly indicates that this upward trajectory is likely to continue. So at least in the near term, we can expect move towards 395, 400. So hold on, keep a stop loss now somewhere around 360 on a closing basis.
All right, so a stop loss of 360 on a closing basis is what Sameet is advising on Kolte Patil. Our next query comes from Vishnu Pillai, and he's bought 10 shares of Bajaj Finserv at 5,240 rupees per share. And he wants to get a 5-month view. That's his horizon right now. It's currently trading at 5,274, just marginally above Vishnu's buying price. Sandeep, what is your short-term as well as long-term view with respect to valuations on Bajaj Finserv? What would you advise Vishnu to do?
See, he can hold on to the share. In fact, the businesses the company is into, they are promising, and in fact, in this budget also, somehow there was a lot for these kind of companies. But as you said, the valuations are not all that cheap. But then the company has been consistently and perennially growing, and the prices are also growing. There has been no big correction also in the stock prices, and the management is excellent, very aggressive also. So I feel that he can hold on to it for his long-term objectives.
Okay, so hold on to Bajaj Finserv is the view coming in from Sandeep. The counter in the last 12 months has given you returns of nearly 46 to 47%. Let's take our next query from Facebook itself. This one comes from Vishal. He wants to invest in Suzlon Energy with a 1-year view. Sandeep, I'll come back to you, and this is not only for Vishal, but we get a lot of queries with regard to Suzlon. Some people have already entered around the levels of 17, 18, but let's not forget the stock's not given you any returns in the last 10 years. Just because it's around the mark of 13, 14, people think it can be a multi-bagger in the near term. What would your advice be to people who want to put their money into stocks like Suzlon?
See, it's very skeptic now, because the prospects somehow sometimes look good also, but then very, very dependent on the government regulations also, and the pricing also from the CRC also, and somehow government is aggressive on renewable energy also, and the company, after being liked by a big time promoter like Sun Pharma's promoter, so it came into limelight also, but now it has corrected a lot. So those who are holding it, they can hold on to the share, because this is not the right price to exit. They will certainly get an opportunity to exit on bounce. But for investments, fresh investment, I won't recommend, at these levels, because there are some other better power stocks which have also corrected, like NTPC looks very good to me. So NHPC looks good to me. SJVN is also very good as far as dividend yield is concerned. So look on to some, and then Reliance Power, in fact, it also has some valuations. So these kind of those traditional power companies can be looked at. Tata Power is also good. So I feel Suzlon, those who are holding it, they can hold on.
Okay, so there are plenty of other stocks, you can choose as against Suzlon. But we'll take the next query, which comes on Wockhardt. That's coming from Mahendra Singh, and he wants to get a view on this one. Wockhardt is a pretty tricky counter because it's seen, it has had a very, very volatile year. That said, we've seen some gains coming in the recent past. It's currently trading at about 825, extremely susceptible to news, and like I said, extremely volatile as well, and often inconsistent with respect to volumes. Sandeep, I'll take this query back to you. On a fundamental foothold, how are you viewing Wockhardt right now?
So somehow it's a very, very risky stock, in fact, and very volatile also, and the fundamentals are also very volatile, in fact, and somehow I would not like the stock in the past also, because, it's an FNO also, and the level of risk it involves is very high. And I feel that, those who can invest and those who want to invest in pharma sector, and there are lots of good options, because pharma somehow has not performed up to the mark, and due to some margin pressure or lots of some other reasons also, regulatory issues also. But now I think that, risk reward ratio is very good in this sector, and there are some big large cap names and good well governed companies where one can certainly put in his money. Sun Pharma looks good. Somehow the results are there today, and it is also volatile. Taro somehow could not perform, but still I feel that downside risk is very less. One can look on to Sun Pharma. Then Ipca delivered a very good set of numbers, and the regulatory issues are also now getting resolved. So I think Ipca can be a good bet. Then Dr. Reddy's have also very corrected. Lupin. So all these big names can be looked at. Even Aurobindo Pharma is also one bet for long term. So there are so many names in pharma stocks. So why to go with such a riskier name?
All right, Sandeep's already highlighted his favorites from the pharma pack. He is not too sure about Wockhardt because that's been a pretty volatile counter in the recent past. Let's move on and take Gaurav Sundar Bose's query. He's written to us on Facebook. He's bought 400 shares of Yes Bank at a price of 281 with a one-year view. Well, the current price is definitely higher than where Mr. Bose bought his shares at 328. Sameet, on the charts, what would you advise him if this is a positional call, if he wants to stay invested for the next 5 to 6 months? What sort of targets would you be advising him?
See, recently we saw some kind of underperformance from this counter, wherein 365, 370 acted as a very strong hurdle. In last couple of weeks, we've already seen decent correction, and although he has a time horizon of 5 months, 6 months, there's a strong support around 320 for this particular counter. It's a make or break level, at least in the near term. So once this stock gives a breakdown below 320, we can expect a decent correction. So although he is he has a time frame of 5 to 6 months, I would rather ask him to keep a strict stop loss below 320. If this level gets triggered, exit. You can get this particular counter on lower levels.
All right, that's the view on Yes Bank, at least from a year's perspective. The next query is on BSC. We have Sanjeev Khajuria, who writes to us on Facebook, and he's bought 150 shares of BSC at around 930 rupees per share. The natural beneficiary of equity markets doing well, at least fundamentally. But Sameet, considering this is a short-term point of view, I'm going to come back to you on BSC. How are you viewing trade on this particular counter?
See, unfortunately, I don't have sufficient data to analyze this particular counter. As a chartist, I would require at least price data of nearly 2 to 3 years. So I don't have sufficient data as such, but looking at recent price action, the stock has done nothing. It has been underperforming, and I guess it has slipped below its inception price also. So my suggestion for a short-term trader, at least, any bounce back towards 880, 900 would be an exit opportunity.
Sure, let's also take a fundamental point of view on BSC. So Sandeep, I'll take this to you as well. How are you viewing trade on BSC?
I see, somehow, as Sameet said, it has not performed. But still, I feel that, one can stay invested in the stock, and one can look at buying on declines also, because there are immense opportunities for the company. The company somehow is not a very great beneficiary of the big rally in the stock markets. But then, when the stock market doesn't do well, so it certainly loses. But still, I feel that, BSE's SME platform will start doing very well. The listing income is excellent with the company because highest number of listed companies in the world. Then number two, after the breakup with the international exchanges, I think their gift venture, their international exchange ventures might start doing well. And then CDSL is a great venture again. And then CDSL is also getting into some other initiatives like commodity repository and all this stuff. So I think, one can stay invested in the stock. The company's management is very aggressive and somehow they have been trying to get into commodities also. So let's see what happens. But still, no harm in holding on to the share, and somehow one can certainly get into the share on declines also.
Okay, so hold on to BSE is a call from Sandeep, and remember last month itself board of BSE okayed buyback at a price of 1100 crore, 1100 rupees a piece, and they will be spending nearly 160 crore on this buyback. Well, let's just take one last query for the day. Girish Patel has written to us. He wants to invest in Vijaya Bank with a 2-year view. Sandeep, I'll come back to you. Vijaya Bank among the banking pack, would you advise anyone to take a position here?
Somehow one can invest in these PSU banks, but then the government has been very, very active on the policy making front. So there are some uncertainties also, but still all these will lead to some betterness in the industry only. But then somehow smaller PSU banks, I'm not very confident these days. One can go with SBI or BOB, and then if one has to go with smaller PSU banks, then IDBI Bank really looks promising to me, because somehow I think there are some rumors of getting it privatized also, and then they are selling their insurance stake also. So all these positive news are there, and even in this bad market, bad sessions also, this stock has actually shown some resilience, and I feel that in the long run it can certainly do well for the investors. So one can look on to this stock.
All right, so we've run out of time on this show, but keep sending us your queries and we'll try and address as many as possible. On that note, we'd like to thank both Sameet and Sandeep for joining us and helping our viewers with their queries. But that is all that we have on this edition of Ask PQ. Lots more lined up, so don't go anywhere and stay tuned in the Bloomberg Quint.